All right, so now we're going to add more things. Last time we already have a template that we can render contents from a template instead of typing the static HTML code. So the next thing that I'm going to add in those JavaScripts. But before that, I'm going to go back and show an example. That is, if you're not going to use JavaScript and not use a lot of JavaScript. So it's going to be like this. So in the template, you're going to have these syntax, which is called like if, like this. So this is a language called Jinja. This is Jinja. So if you go to this virtual environment, you will see that so Flask already installed some packages, which is called the Jinja. Yeah, so the Jinja language is in case that you don't have JavaScript or you don't know how to run JavaScript, it also works that you have the template, the HTML template, and in which you can insert the parameters, and then you can assign values to these parameters. But that is because, if you don't know how to use JavaScript, and to me, like this Jinja, whatever it's called, it's kind of clumsy. So I'd rather use JavaScript. So like this, for example, as in a typical HTML page, we can load the JavaScript package, and then in the body part, I can use the JavaScript to run the program to make the components, the HTML components, like a H1 selector or P selector, div, whatever. Okay. All right. So the first thing is that I'm gonna copy this example 4 and put that as example 5. I'm gonna change that to example 5. So the second is that, so of course in this Flask, I'm going to change that to example 5. Okay, so now let's do a test. So I'm going to launch this folder, and it will be the same as in example 4. So this is to prove that it works. I'm going to stop the server and going back to this example 5. Okay. So in this example 5, we know that we already have this web template, which is this index, right? So so down at this part, I'm going to copy some of the JavaScript chunks so that it is going to load some libraries. So the two that I'm going to load is the jQuery and the D3 libraries. Alright, so it would be like this. So basically, it's going to use the online libraries. So it's going to load the jQuery and D3 libraries. Well, the second is that instead of having this static HTML, I'm going to put in a script and using the script to load a JavaScript file from it. And I'm gonna make the source as well. This is the default settings. So in a normal page, like an index page, you're gonna say, well, because I have this index page, then I'm gonna look for a JavaScript file and indicating the relative path to this index HTML file. All right, this is in a normal HTML settings, like if it were a normal HTML, the structure is that you have this index, which is in this folder, and the JS is in another folder. So you will type in things like, so first you're going to go one level upper, and then you're going to go to this JavaScript, and then you're going to say whatever, the module names that you're going to have. But this is not a way that is going to work in this Flask. The Flask works because all of these are templates. These are not a physical location. when it comes to the rendered HTML components. It's all in a virtual environment. So Flask is going to create a virtual folder called static. Okay, so and it's going to assume that you're going to put the JavaScript into the JavaScript files into this. So let's say that I'm going to have this JavaScript file called make element. So you have to put it in the static. Okay, that's going to work. All right. So just as we said before, that remember that in this initial py at the same level. So if you have a templates folder, then Flask is going to recognize that and going to load all the templates within that templates folder. So it will be the same concept that if you have a folder called static, and static, is that static or statics? Oh yeah, so I'm pretty sure that it is called a static. So if you have a folder called static, and inside, and then you can add in the JavaScript file. So for example, I'm going to have this make elements JavaScript from JavaScript file, and inside I'm going to simply just say that I'm going to use the D3 package because it's already in the home page already loaded the D3 library. So I'm going to use D3 to select the body component, and then I'm going to append an H1 okay selector, and inside I'm going to have the text and saying that this is from static, right, make element.js. All right, so this is going to create a H1 element, and we're going to put in the text that this is from static, and it's going to be shown on the web page. All right, so going back, so this is to have to load this make element JS and make that element. But before, we can also insert the script inside directly. For example, we can have the script file, and inside, right? So this part we're gonna just type the code here. So we're gonna say the D3 to select the same thing, but this, and also we're gonna append a H1, okay, and then we're gonna say the text is this is from the script in the page. Okay, so if all of that works, then we're going to have two lines. The first line will be this is from the script in the page. The second from the static element, as I said in this page. Okay, all right. So let's see if that works. It does not work. It sounds like it is still in this example 4. I just realized that in this init py, actually, remember the last time for this template I rendered that from example 4. I have a folder there. Let's just go there and check in this example 5 and this init file. I'm still loading the path from loading the template from this 04. And that is the source of the problem. So I should change that to 5. And bearing in mind that this is quite annoying because, you know, every time if I have a new project, I have to change it. And we're going to try to solve this problem later. Okay, so I'm going to stop the server, close it, and reload it and see what's going to happen. Yep, it works. And see that so now in this example 5, it is going to see there are two lines. The first is from the JavaScript from this template directly on this page, and the second is from this make element JavaScript thing. So it works. All right, so far so good. So I'm going to stop this server and close the page. So it sounds like it works, but there is a problem here because as I said before, that I want to organize this code files into a more organized way. So for example, like for this JS file, I hope that I can put that in this JS file instead of this messy static folder. So yeah, so it is more, it is kind of straightforward, right? So for example, I can have it, so imagine that if I want to move, if I can move this JavaScript file inside, so that it's going to have this, and also I can add more subfolders. So of course I can make more folders in the static thing, but it's just not so straightforward to me. So I'm going to say tools, for example, and within this tools, for example, I have a new file called modules. All right, so so this part is dealing with all the D3 works, like draw a div or like diagrams, whatever, right? So let's say that the structure is like this. I have within this JS, I have this make element.js, and inside the tools I have this modules. Oh, I have a wrong spelling here. I'm going to change that, modules D3. Okay, so in this module D3, let's say that we're going to have the similar things, but this time we're going to add a H1 selector. But this time we're going to indicate that this one is from static tools and from this modules D3. So in that case, I want to have these 3 lines, right? And going back to this index, so now not only that we're going to have this JavaScript file loaded from this file, but also want to have it loaded from tools and modules.ds. Yeah. So I want it to be like that. So the only thing is that I'm going to imagine that instead of using this this literal static folder, I'm going to have a setting so that Flask knows that actually the static refers to the path here. So this can be done just like the templates folder. It's the same concept that actually we can set the static. But it's a little bit different because you see that when we render the template, we don't have to specify that templates folder. But for this JavaScript part, we have to specify the static part. But anyway, so the concept is the same. So the only thing that we need to do is that we are going to go back to this index, this initial py, and remember that we already have this part to find the root folder. It's not a root folder. It's the folder where we start this this project, right? And then we're going to add this part, and we have a problem here. It sounds like it's clumsy, that every time we have to change this from example 04 to 5 and so forth, right? But it's the same concept, but it's just that I'm going to take a different approach, and this time because I have already initiated this instance called app flask, actually I can change a property of that, and the property is called static folder. So I just have to change the static folder, and then the rest of that Flask is going to take care. And going back to the index template, this is actually template, so it's going to load that as if it is a in a static folder. Okay, so that's how it's going to work out here. So again, I can have 2 parts. The first, that I can leverage the things I have here. For example, I have this part, and then plus, then I can have this. I mean, it's just that up to this part, I'm going to change that to, instead of the web page templates, I'm going to change that to JS. All right, so this is the one way. But remember that we have the problem of this example 5. So I really don't want to change this example 5. Okay. So the other approach here is that actually I can use this this app flask, and actually I can have a property called root path. Yeah, it's called a root path. All right. So the good thing about this root path is that it's gonna go from the Python whatever. So it's gonna take this part until Python, but it's also gonna add this apps and example 5. So it's gonna stop there. So that's exactly what I want. So this is the root path. So again, I'm gonna change that to replace the backslash to forward slash, because backslash is really annoying, right? So then after that, I'm gonna add a forward slash. All right. Actually, I don't. I just have to like add. Yeah, I just have to add all of these files together. So that is to change the static folder like this. Okay. So, and before that, I'm gonna print out this root folder to illustrate how it looks like. Okay, so I'm gonna have this path illustrate how it looks like. All right. So with all of that, and now that Flask is gonna know that, okay, so instead of using the static folder, so I'm gonna load the JavaScript files from this folder, and also within that I'm gonna load, if you have a file, I'm gonna load it from this tools folder. So that path up until to this JS part, I'm gonna treat that as if it is the static folder. Okay, so I'm gonna, to avoid confusing, I'm gonna delete this static folder. So actually there is no physical static folder there, but I have a setting to like create a virtual static folder, and then I'm gonna have this modules inside. And now let's try it. Okay, so let's bring it on. Yes, it works. So now, so as in this template, this is specified in this template page. So the first that I'm going to have a line is from the script on this page. And the second is I'm going to make a line by this make elements JavaScript. And then I have a line from this module.d3. So I have these 3 lines here. Right, so, and pay attention to the things below, is that to remember in this py file, I have specified to print out this root path, and this root path is here. So the beautiful thing here is that you don't have to specify, you don't have to change that to example 5, and imagine that in the future I have example 6. I don't have to change that manually, right? So this is the first. The second is that you can see that it's going to load, this shows that it's going to load the root, and also it's going to load this JavaScript file from the static, virtual static file, which points to this JS folder, and then for another JS file from the static tools, you know, this tools, which is under this folder. Right, so all of that works now, and now the only thing I need to change here is that going back, and now I find that this part, like finding the current folder, like up to this Python, and adding those example 5 is quite clumsy. So because I already find a way to figure out the root path, then actually I can use the same trick to assign for the template folder. I'm going to change it like that. So I'm going to stop this. And just to avoid confusing, I'm going to close the page. I'm going back and do some surgery here. So instead of searching this, I'm going to make an instance of this flask. All right, so this time I'm not going to take this approach. I'm just going to say, yeah, so flask name, and this is just to make an instance of the flask. Okay, so the second is that I'm going to change the property of this template folder, right? So this template folder, so I'm going to change that as I did for this static folder, right? So this part will be the root path of this flask instance. So of course I'm going to replace it the same thing, and I'm going to replace the backslash with forward slash, and then I'm going to add the part, and this is going to be easy, right? So I'm just have to, like, now it is in this folder, so I just have to put in the slash front end, and then I have this web page templates, and that's it, right? So I'm going to save the rest of that because I really don't need that part. And as I said, oh yeah, I don't need to have this part. So as I said, that the good thing about it is that I don't need to change that all the time. So next time I have an example 6, I don't have to manually change the setting for this root path. Okay. Okay, so now with this we're gonna test it again. Alright, so we're gonna test it again, and yes, it works.